Item 3 are minutes from January 20th special meeting and January 20th regular meeting. Motion and second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4 is adoption of the agenda. Mike or John, do you know of any corrections or additions to the agenda as printed?
No. Move approval.
Second. Motion and second to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Under visitors to be heard, addressing the council, persons addressing the council shall use the microphone at the podium. Please raise your hand to be recognized, go to the podium, and state your name and address. For items that are not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors to be heard on any topic not on the agenda. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes and no decision will be made at this time. For agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item. Public testimony will then be closed and the topic will be given to the governing body for possible action. At this point, only council members and staff may discuss the current agenda item unless a council member moves to allow another person to speak and there's unanimous consent from the council. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. At this time, we have visitors to be heard. Under visitors to be heard, we have a hashtag Love Vermillion Day proclamation. And Tom, please.
Whereas Vermillion is home to spirited, progressive, friendly, generous, diverse, active citizens who take pride in their community and make it an amazing place to live. And whereas Vermillion is home to our state's flagship university and the harmonious and mutually beneficial relationship between our city and the University of South Dakota continues to flourish as our institutions grow together. And whereas in Vermillion, we've got it all. Unbelievable access to arts, culture, sports, beautiful natural scenery, and abundant recreation options, top-notch education for every age, a thriving business sector that provides ample opportunities for work, shopping, dining, and entertainment, and a community that knows how to care, cooperate, and celebrate. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the governing body of the City of Vermillion, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim February 13, 2020, as Love Vermillion Day, known as hashtag uppercase LOV, lowercase ERMILLION Day, and encourage all citizens to also proclaim their love for our wonderful city. Dated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this 3rd day of February 2020.
Thank you, Tom. Nate, will you receive the please? Five minutes. Thank you. Have something to say? Well, always.
Set the clock. Yeah. No, again, on behalf of Vermillion Area Chamber and Development Company, I sincerely want to thank you. It's turned into a fun tradition that we just honor and celebrate this day by being able to have and host an event at the basketball game for the St. Coyote Sports Center with the university. It really is symbolic of just unifying the community and the university, and this hashtag Love Vermillion was really intended for us to be able to celebrate all the things that we love about our community, whether it be sports, arts, culture, and everything in between that. And so your proclamation, again, as a continued support in that really does mean a lot, and we thank you for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Is there anyone else in the audience that has a topic they wish to bring forward that's not on the agenda? Seeing none. Council, anybody on the council have something that's not on the agenda? Okay, then we'll move on to public hearings. We have none of those, so we'll go to old business. And if somebody will kindly remind me that we have 2 second readings. The first one.
We have 2 second readings.
Thank you. A little later. Second reading of Ordinance 1411 to amend Title 15, Land Usage, Chapter 150, Building Regulation, Section 150.02, B7, International Building Code, to add roofing and siding as work requiring a permit. And Farrell, please.
Well, since our first reading, I did have a chance to talk to contractors, people watch the council meetings. They were aware of what's going on. And, all the input I've gotten was in favor, with the exception they want to make sure that they can get these permits in a timely manner. Sometimes roofing, siding, things like that, they don't have a lot of lead time into. I assured them that we can, and I believe that we can. So in light of their input and no other, I guess we move to approve, or staff would recommend.
Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, turn it to the council. Julia, did you?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify. You want to take over?
Whenever you need.
Don, would you please set the machinery for us? Overall results, yes, 8, 0 no's. Motion passes. Turning to item B, second reading of Ordinance 1412 to amend Title 15 Land Usage, Chapter 150 Building Regulations, Section 150.03 B5, International Residential Code to add roofing and siding as work requiring a permit. Again, Farrell, please.
Again, same thing, nearly identical. We're just doing the IBC and the IRC, so the second one reflects the change in the other book that we use to regulate building. And the same comments apply as the other one is for business was for 1 and 2 family dwellings.
Thank you, Farrell. Council?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Would you all set your machinery, Don, for...
Thank you. As you just heard, it was determined that permitting roofing and siding throughout the community would be beneficial for both the city and property owners. It would allow for city inspectors to ensure the safety and quality of work being done in the community, as well as enforce compliance with the IBC and the IRC. After some research, staff found that it's common practice throughout municipalities in the state to do such permitting. At the January 20th meeting, the council approved ordinances 1411 and 1412, first reading, and the past item, they approved the second reading of the ordinances. Each ordinance included language that indicated that a fee for roofing and siding permit would be set by resolution. So here we are. Here is the resolution. City staff is recommending that the fees for roofing or siding replacement be set at $25, which is equivalent to the fee established by resolution for window permits. The resolution also provides for a single permit, which may allow those to combine any or all 3 of the permits for a flat $40 fee. Any fees collected would be added to the general fund, and administration recommends approval of this resolution.
Would this be, James, when you, any or all 3 for, is that the same address, or does it go beyond that?
The same address.
Okay. Just thought it'd be good to clarify
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Consideration of beginning the process to appoint a whole rule committee. John, please.
Thank you. This is a follow-up to your discussion at the January 20th noon meeting. As you might recall, last year a Home Rule Study Committee was appointed. That was chaired by Mike Card. Other committee members included Councilmember Julia Hellwig, Matt Fairholm, Stacy Larson, and Travis Letlier. I think I got that right. Close? Travis L. Travis. Letler. Sorry, my apologies, Travis. But this group, they did a nice job, and these are all available through Municipal League's website if you want to read the home rule charters. The committee members reviewed all of those in groups, so a couple of people reviewed them. And they diligently went through that process. They did some interviews with other communities that had a home rule charter to find out why, what was working, some things like that. And they presented that to you at your January 20th noon meeting. And the consensus of the City Council was to bring this item forward to the City Council to consider establishing a Home Rule Charter Committee. If I might just read the recommendation that the Home Rule Study Committee suggested to the City Council was they unanimously recommend the City of Vermillion pursue steps to create a Home Rule Charter that will enable the community to meet emergency needs that may arise, to implement efficient measures that may not be specifically enabled under current state law, and would enable more efficient operation of the city government, and to enable citizens to efficiently engage with city services without waiting for the South Dakota legislature to act to specifically authorize the city to act to meet challenges that may arise over time, allowing the council to remain responsive to Vermillion residents. That was the recommendation that they made. I just want to kind of point out, as we did at that noon discussion on January 20th, a couple of statutes that really come into play here. One is 6-12-7, and what that statute in essence says is that once you as a city council establish a home rule charter committee, they have 1 year to complete their work. The other one, the other two that come into play are 6-12-8 and 6-12-8.1. What those two basically do is once you, as a city council, accept either placing the charter to a vote or decide to submit a vote to the voters, we have to have an election with 120 days of that date of the city council action. So there's quite a bit of discussion that day looking out, do we have a special election, do we try to put it in the November general election, or do we try to put it on the June ballot? While all three of those are possible, the consensus at that meeting seemed to be to establish a home rule charter committee with the goal of trying to place this on the November 2020 ballot. So tonight, before you, I guess, are a couple questions. One is if you want to go ahead and approve establishing a home rule charter committee. The number of members that you would like to have on that committee, we did have 5 on the study committee. I would suggest maybe 5 or 7 or perhaps as many as 9 or whatever the council feels most comfortable with. And then when you would like to have those applications before you so that you can appoint the members to that committee. We will also, as a staff, prepare a charge for that committee, as is typical with most of these committees that are established. And we will, depending on the timing of when you appoint members, we will get a couple of charges before you so that you can kind of wordsmith what that language might be. So with that, I guess the staff recommendation is to go ahead and pursue establishing a home rule charter committee. And if we respectfully request you determine the number of members you'd like to have and which council meeting you would like to appoint those individuals to that committee. And assuming that if the council does take that course of action, we do have expression of interest forms that these members utilize to apply for this committee and that we use to apply for other city council appointed committees. We would get that information out to the public so they would establish a base of information which would be provided to the council to make your selections.
Thank you, John. This is a public hearing. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on this item at this time? Thank you. Seeing none in the audience, we'll turn to the council members. Kelsey.
So if we were to make a motion here at some point, the things that we would want to include in it would be the number of members on this body, when we would like to appoint those members, and then what election date we would be targeting for a charter vote.
Or if you want to do it.
Is that correct?
If I may respond.
Certainly.
I do not believe that you would need to, I think that'd be good advice to give the home rule committee if one's established, but I don't think you would need to pick your election date tonight. That will happen by the action of the city council when you either make the motion to deliberately send the charter or the question to the voters.
Okay.
My point was that I think we have to vote on whether we want to have
Right.
that form, so it's just adding one to it.
Okay. It was just in the memo, it kind of sounded like that. So right now, we would just be talking about the number of members and then the date at which we would want those applications to be in front of us. While I'm not ready to make a motion yet, because I think we need some discussion, one thing that what I would put out is that I think a 5-person committee with the idea that we would vote on it at the first March meeting would be one sense-making way of going forward. So I'll just put that out there.
Tom, just a minute. Yeah, Rich. Tom.
Thank you. My first question was, and I agree, I think the recommendation of staff here and probably Dr. Card is to move ahead with the process and set some of this other stuff later. But I think as we do that, I'd like to know a little bit more from someone. What would the charge say, do you think? Is this a for or neither for nor against? Or is it all for, but now we're going to figure out how to do this? Could you clarify that for us, please? What the charge to the committee would be? Well, either one.
John, do you want to tackle that?
I haven't penned one out for the council to review, but my sense of what that charge would be to study home rule charters, although I think there's a wealth of information that's been provided, to develop a charter for the city council to consider to place the matter before the before election of the voters. I guess, appointment of that committee by the first statute I mentioned starts at 1-year clock for them to complete their work. So I think that committee, I believe, is charged with bringing the question to the council. Now the council could, I guess, I haven't visited with Mr. McCullough on this, decide not to place that question before the voters, but I believe the charge of the committee would be to prepare a charter for the city council to consider. If I may ask Mr. McCullough.
Rich, please.
A couple of things. First of all, and I guess both to John, when you say prepare a charge, you also, I think, mentioned that you'd submit it to us for approval, the charge, whatever it is you presented. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The second thing was you had mentioned about selecting a number, which I think I agree with Kelsey, 5 was great. You said, and city council. Was that as advisory? And would that be above and beyond the 5 or part of the 5, John?
I guess those are things that the city council would have the latitude to establish the committees you want to. I do not believe there's state statutes in any way address the size of that committee or the makeup of that committee. Historically, unless it's in state statute, a council member has not served as a voting member of those committees. The only exception I can think of is our library board that I can think of where we have a city council member that serves on a council-appointed committee where they also get to vote.
So it would be in addition to the 5, the non-voting member.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be good to have, if there's a councilman interested, probably good to have that sort of liaison and input.
It would be good. Thank you.
Tom?
So am I to understand then that the group that brought us to this point then looked at both pros and cons, and now we want to proceed and work out details, but there will be a vote on all this by the council and opportunity for public input. So with that, I will follow the recommendation that the city move forward. I move that the city council move forward with the process to go ahead and appoint a home rule committee.
Is there a question? Wait a minute, we don't have a second for that.
Do we need to say how many members and when we would vote on it?
I think that'd be helpful. They give direction to staff.
Want to pick a number, Tom?
Well, I think 5 is sufficient. Did you say March?
A first March meeting, so then there would be a
Okay.
whole month between.
With applications taken, I took a long pause there, and bring it before the council in the first meeting in March. Tell him that.
March 2nd.
Are you seconding, or are you just saying March 2nd?
I'm doing both.
Can only do one thing at a time?
He seconded.
I seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Julia?
Speaking as someone who was on the study committee, I want to say that, again, it was unanimous. We explored the benefits and potential fallbacks, although we didn't really see many fallbacks on this issue. The point of that committee, of course, was just to study the issue, and then the next committee will be to write the charter. But as someone who then read these charters, I will say that there's a lot of template language out there. And so while there are some issues to be discussed and figured out, there's very good language. There are very important specifics that are already in place. So there's a language in place to write this charter, and so there should be sufficient time for a committee to complete this within the year and potentially by the November election date, although we're not specifying that at this time. And so I just want to say thank you for having us work on that committee. I also want to say that in terms of the composition, I thought it was important to have a council member on the study committee. I am not certain about having a council member on the charter committee, which would then be part of drafting it, but then also part of voting on it as a charge. And so I don't know if we need to discuss that part, the composition, any further, but my thought would be to not include a council member on that discussion.
Catherine, please.
Do you mean at all or as a voting member? Like we had discussed, a council member sitting on, not as a voting member, but as sort of ex officio or liaison?
I would say not as a voting member. If someone on the council wants to be, or even if any of us want to be part of that discussion, I think that's fine. I feel like I have sufficiently looked at this discussion, and so I would be happy to have someone else who wants to also review these documents so that we have more representation if that's what we're looking for.
It wasn't part of the motion, as I recall, as far as setting a date for an election, but you mentioned November, and I personally feel that's way too soon. I think that this is such an important item. It's had a lot of work put into it with your committee, and I think we really have to do a great job of helping our county, our city citizens understand why we're interested in doing this. And I would hate to see us rush something just to meet a November election. And so I didn't hear it as part, but you mentioned it, and I wanted to make sure that's not part of the motion or the second. Is that okay with everyone? A date is not part of this motion. Okay?
Except for the March 2nd meeting.
I'm sorry, I meant as far as taking it to the public.
I do have one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're
Let
still...
Steve go first.
I was just wondering if, Tom, if you felt like we needed to have Tom made the motion. I was wondering if you felt like we needed to have something in the motion that said we would have a liaison member from the council in addition to the 5 members, or if we can just work that out.
I didn't say that, but, if you want to amend the motion, go ahead.
Yeah, I will, if as a friendly amendment.
Is there a second for that friendly amendment? We have a motion and a second for the friendly amendment. Are we ready to vote on the amendment?
Oh, on the amendment, yeah.
Everyone understand the amendment?
Well, I want to make sure I got it. Is that voting or non-voting?
Non-voting.
Okay.
As I understand, they use several terms, liaison, but a non-voting member of the committee. Steve, do you have further?
Well, I wanted to clarify that we're voting for the entirety of the motion?
No,
Just
the
the
amendment.
amendment.
The
Okay.
amendment. I know you want to get out early, but I'm not going to let you out. Further discussion on the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. So we now have a liaison person from the council. Now we're ready for the motion.
I do have a question for Julie or others. In the study done by this first group, was there any discussion of what has recently come to light under a bill in the legislature that reminds us that the state can preempt local governments on certain areas? And this one has to do with plastic straws, but there is a statute in South Dakota law that would preempt. I don't know how that would affect home rule or not. Did you study that at all?
We did not study it since our study time concluded around the end of the year, with our report drafting in the beginning of this year, and so we had not seen that specific bill. That said, I have looked at that bill, and from my understanding, it seems that that is banning a specific issue. And so I think in terms of home rule, the general idea is that we can, under home rule, we would be able to do what the state does not prevent us to do. If the state specifically prevents us from banning plastic straws or banning really anything else, then we would not be able to do that.
And this isn't just about straws. There is a statute already on the books that has the word preemption in it, so
Mike,
that's
do you
why
have
I
any-
asked that.
I'm sorry. Mike, do you have any comments that you'd like to make? Appreciate it. Thank you for your...
To see if you have any questions. My name is Michael Card. I live at 204 South Crawford Road. I was the chair of the study committee. I did look specifically at the issue of statutory preemptions, and the state legislature can prohibit a home rule city from engaging in any activity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your work and your committee's work. Are we ready to vote on the motion now? Mike, do you have the motion?
Yep.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank the committee for their work. Item C, motion to authorize staff to accept quotes for emergency repair of water line. And Shane, please.
Thank you. City staff has detected a water main break on a 6-inch water line that goes underneath the Vermillion River at the Dakota Street site. The repairs are really, the replacement is going to require developing of plans for the existing water main replacement, obtaining soil samples, and then hiring a directional boring company to actually perform the work and the installation. The river boring portion of this project is estimated to exceed the $50,000 limit. The state statute would require a competitive sealed bid process to award this contract. The location and the weather due to winter, it limits our ability to isolate and bypass this problem area right now. So we're looking at trying to expedite this process as quick as possible. State statute 5-18A-9 allows for emergency procurement without time involved in advertising for the bids. As the extent of the damage on the water main is unknown at this time, we just know it's leaking. We're not sure the timeline of how long it'll continue to serve the customers on the south side of the river there. We're hoping that the council will declare the replacement of the water main an emergency so that we can move forward sooner than later. Staff will work with Banner to obtain quotes from companies for the replacement of the water main under the river. Factors in using to compare the quotes, we'll look at the cost, the contractor's past work history, and the completion date. The information will be documented in the contract file as required by the state statute. Staff will review the cost of upsizing the water main. It's currently a 6-inch water main. We'll look at getting it upsized to an 8-inch just to kind of set us up for the future so we're not doing this again in 20 years. Rough estimates for the project right now, we've got engineering is not to exceed $10,000. Geotech for the soil sampling is not to exceed $2,500, and the bore is estimated to come in between $70,000 to $100,000. Administration recommends the City Council to declare the replacement of the water main an emergency and authorize staff to contract for the water main replacement by using quotes outlined in State Statute 5-18A-9.
Thank you, Shane. Council?
Second?
Motion and a second to approve. Seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, Shane. Item D is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 5 vehicles. And Jose, please.
Thank you. At budget sessions in 2019, the City Council reviewed the 2020 Equipment Replacement Fund. As part of that schedule, the following vehicles listed on the memo are meant to be replaced this year. That's 2 police vehicles, 2 2017 Ford Interceptor SUVs to be replaced, 1 pickup truck for code enforcement, that's a 2009 Ford F-250, a 2008 Ford F-150 for the Water Department, and a 2000 Ford F-150 for the Light and Power Department. Staff compare prices from Sourcewell and from state bids for these 5 vehicles. I have a table on the memo with all the bids listed. The prices received from the local dealer were slightly higher, as you can tell by through that table, than the state bid. The city did not approach the other local dealers since the vehicles, all of the vehicles being offered through the state bid were not a make sold by them. When purchasing equipment, the city has several options based on state statutes. The city can always procure bids from vendors on the requirements set forth in 5-18A. This takes staff time and additional resources to develop bid specs, advertise the bid documents, and evaluate the bids. Bidding does not guarantee a local vendor will get the bid award either. However, the city can also follow exemptions and rules found in statutes 5-18A-22, 5-18A-37, and 5-18C-8. These 3 statutes allow the city to purchase from an already awarded contract that was awarded within 12 months, as long as the awarded bid followed the bidding process, purchase any equipment that costs less than $50,000 without going through the bidding process, purchase from a purchasing agency, or purchase from the state contract list as long as the purchase item is at or below the prices on the state contract list. Vermillion Ford was the local vendor that I mentioned earlier, was provided the specifications for vehicles based on the awarded state contract prices. Vermillion Ford provided very favorable prices when compared to the state bid, compared to the Sourcewell prices. However, the Vermillion Ford prices were not as at or lower than the state bid prices. While staff would like to recommend that the City Council purchase the vehicles from Vermillion Ford, the statute being used, 5-18C-8, does not allow for this. The prices from Vermillion Ford would have had to be the same or lower than the state bid prices. The statute does not allow for preference to local vendors. It should also be noted that in this instance, the city cannot follow Statute 5-18A-22, parentheses 19, since the city would be purchasing multiples of the same type, 2 interceptors and 3 pickup trucks. While the individual price of each of the vehicles is less than $50,000, the total for the multiple types exceeds that $50,000 threshold. This would require that the city bid the vehicles or use the eligible state contract. If the city was only buying 1 interceptor and 1 pickup truck in a year, then the city should follow the statute mentioned previously. The 2020 Equipment Replacement Fund includes a budget of $142,400 for these 5 vehicles. The total cost for the 5 vehicles would be $155,528. The difference of $13,128 with the fund being short this amount. At this point, we do not have all of the purchases made for the year or quotes for all of the vehicles or equipment being replaced. We believe that the fund will be in good shape once all of the sales of the existing equipment and purchases are completed at the end of the year. Administration recommends approving the resolution to purchase the following vehicles from the state-awarded bidder, Lamb Motors from Oneida, 2 2020 Ford Interceptors SUVs for $71,714, and 3 2020 Ford F-150s XLTs 4x4 regular cab for $83,814. Prices do include the delivery to Vermillion.
Thank you, Jose. I'd like to just make a couple of personal comments. I'm sorry that we can't do something that that is within, I don't know if a percentage is the right way, or some value that we can keep business in our home community, where these people support everything from raising money for the fire department to all kinds of things for the public school system and so on. As I understand and have been informed by our administration, we don't have an option, and I think that's sad. Apparently there is one bill in the legislature at this time to raise that limit from $50,000 to $100,000, which would be a big difference for us, but obviously won't help us at this point. That having been said, I feel our hands are tied. So, Council? Julia?
Just wondering, I know we said our hands are tied. Can we not approve this and then try it again and go back to Vermillion and they can see these numbers and see if they will drop the numbers down to the state, because the state will not change their bid numbers?
I would ask our council to respond to that, please.
Yeah, when we actually start this process, that's the first thing that we do. We show the local vendor the prices that we're going to be getting them from if it's a state bid. And so they were aware of the prices.
And they were unable to drop the $400?
Yes, they were.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Tom? Oh, John. Council.
So does the end position declare an emergency? Does it declare an emergency that means we'll go to immediate effect after the time?
John, Jim, can you speak to that?
So I'm sure I'm asking because if the bill you mentioned that currently being talked about in the legislature declares an emergency, then that means we're going to effect as soon as the other time, which we were to delay our purchasing until March. And if it did declare an emergency, it wouldn't be out by then.
The 50,000?
Yes.
Jim, do you have a comment?
Well, if the legislature declares an emergency, it would come into effect on April 1st. And after the last day of the legislature, but we can't control what the legislature is going to do. I have no idea if they're going to have it declared an emergency or not. But even if they declared an emergency, the law couldn't come into effect until April 1st.
Sure, please.
No, we can delay the purchase of them. The reason that we typically like to do it as soon as possible, so we actually get the vehicles as soon as we can, especially the police vehicle. Usually there's a long delay in getting those, so we try to get them as soon as we can at the beginning of the year, order them anyways.
Steve?
When I first looked at these numbers, I was sort of like Julia was too, I suspect, like, oh, this is shameful that the Vermillion's Ford bid was so close to the state bid, but I was also under the impression that Vermillion Ford didn't know what the state bids would be, so they made a choice to say that they couldn't go lower, and so that seems like everyone had a fair option to make a fair bid under 100% knowledge of what the minimum or the sort of what we would be asking for. So I don't think we need to take any extra time because I don't think Vermillion Ford was unaware of anything in this case. So I'm going to make a motion that we pass this resolution.
Second?
Motion and second to pass the resolution authorizing the purchase of 5 vehicles. Any further discussion? I'll just add a personal comment. I'd like to see our legislators move to do something that allows for some recognition of the home dealerships. It's not part of a motion, it's just a statement. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks, Jose. Moving on to the next one. Resolution authorizing the purchase of a utility vehicle. And Jose, please.
I'm not going to read the entire memo this time. So again, at the budget sessions this last year, we did, one of the vehicles that was scheduled was this to be replaced was a 2010 utility vehicle for the Parks and Rec Department. This instance, we're actually, since you guys have all the statutes now that we follow, this time we're going to be following 518A 22(19), which allows the city to purchase equipment that costs less than $50,000 without going to bid. We approached a couple dealerships, Yankton Motorsports, and I can remember there's a dealership in Beersford as well. We only received a quote from Yankton Motorsports, and it's for a 2020 Kawasaki Mule Pro FX EPS for $16,948.40. The 2020 Equipment Replacement Fund includes a budget of $16,700 for this vehicle. The difference of $248.40 should be covered with the sales of other vehicles and savings from purchases of vehicles that have yet to be purchased. Administration recommends approving the resolution authorizing the purchase of one 2020 Kawasaki Mule Pro FX EPS from Yankton Motorsports for $16,948.40.
Thanks, Jose. Did they allow a trade-in?
No.
Council? We've got 3 move approvals, 1 second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. One more, Jose. Resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 mowers.
All right, so at the 2019 budget session, the council did review again the 2020 Equipment Replacement Fund, the schedule. At that time, during that presentation, what we actually presented over to the council was to replace a 2009 mower and a 1993 seeder that they use at the parks. However, since then, there was a Spartan mower, a 2017 Spartan mower that, let's just say, drastically stopped working. So because of that, rather than replacing the 1993 seeder, we're actually going to be recommending that we replace that 2017 Spartan mower. The seeder, we have talked to the Parks and Rec Department, who uses all these equipments on a daily basis, and they do feel that the 1993 seeder is in more than good enough shape to last 3 more years, or 2 more years, I guess, until they can get a new one. They're not too worried about that, but they definitely need the mower to be replaced. So, again, we're going to be following that same statute, the 518A 22-19, which allows the cities or municipalities to purchase anything, equipment, I guess, that costs less than $50,000 without bidding. Administration recommends using the local vendor that sells Hustler mowers. The city currently owns 1 Hustler mower that coincidentally was also purchased in 2017. This mower has proven to be reliable, and staff would like to replace a 2009 mower with a Hustler as well, and the 2017 mower as well with another Hustler. Quotes were received from Vermillion Ace Hardware for a 2020 Hustler 60-inch SD 35 horsepower and a 2020 Hustler 72-inch RD 27 horsepower for $25,192.44. The 2020 Equipment Replacement Fund includes a budget of $33,900 for replacement of the 2009 mower, and the instead of seeder should actually be the 2017 mower. If the purchase of the 2 Hustler mowers is approved, and as proposed, the difference of roughly $8,700 will remain in the fund. Administration recommends approving the resolution authorizing the purchase of 1 2020 Hustler 60-inch SD 35 HP for $13,818.31 and 1 Hustler 72-inch RD 27 horsepower for $11,374.13 from Vermillion Ace Hardware.
Thanks, Jose. Council? Motion the second to approve purchase of the mowers. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you.
Turn to Mike now for fuel quotes.
Quotes were received today for fuel. The first was from Brunick Service. Bid item 1 is 4,350 gallons of unleaded gasoline with 10% ethanol, $2.03 per gallon. Bid item number 2 is 3,000 gallons of number 1 and number 2 diesel fuel dyed. The blended or average cost $1.99 per gallon. And bid item should be 3A and B of 3,000 gallons of number 1 and number 2 diesel fuel clear. The average cost is $2.24. The quotes were received from Jerry's Service. Item 1, $2.17. Item 2, average cost $2.33. Item 3, average cost $2.61. And from Stern Oil, $1.95.71 in item 1. Item 2 is $1.89.31. Item 3, $2.18.8. Stern would be low on all 3.
Council? Motion is second to approve the low bids. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Item 10, John, City Manager's report, please.
Just a couple items at your seat this evening. We did receive a raffle notification today. The USD Law School class of 2021 will be selling $20 tickets from February 4th to April 6th of this year. The 4 winners will receive a cash prize of $200. They will sell 100 of these spots or tickets. Yeah, I guess I didn't put in here, the raffle is based on the men's NCAA tournament, so the scores of those games determine who the winners of those are. Proceeds from this raffle will be used for graduation, the hooding ceremony, and other law school class events. The second round, or the second phase of the Heroes Behind the Badge Blood Drive, the second opportunity to participate, is this coming Saturday, February 8th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and this is at USD Sanford Health Fair next to the Lee Medical School building. And donors participating in the drive can vote for either the police department or the fire department in this friendly competition. Just a reminder that Kidder Street from Court Street to the alley between Court and Market Street will be closed on Sunday, February 15th, and that's from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. For the Special Olympics polar plunge that day. And then one final reminder is that the next City Council meeting is on Tuesday, February 18th. That's due to the President's Day holiday on Monday, February 17th. And city offices are closed on Monday, February 17th for the President's holiday.
Thank you, John. Comments or questions for our city manager?
Good.
Any suggestions on anything else for John? Okay, then we'll turn to Mike for invoices payable if you have questions. Mike, I'd like to ask you about number 92, if you might. What are docking stations? Maybe you should know that.
They've got a laptop that is used in each of the ambulances, and this docking station goes in, which connects it to chargers and a larger monitor and keyboard to make it easier to use in the ambulance, but it allows it to be removed if it needs to be.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to recommend that the ambulance get round wheels. The square ones hit every damn tar bump on the highway, but we're blessed to have them.
Do you have pictures?
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
I do have a question, if you will. It's probably more for John, but we've got city crews that do a whale of a job on trees. Wouldn't it have been maybe less expensive to have them work on that out-of-season golf course grove than hire somebody for $24,500?
That was one of those that is a little bit beyond the ability of our staff to do. They did look at that project, but that was one of those that was a unique project that was beyond our crew's ability. It was a large number of trees.
Any other comments or questions regarding our bills?
I guess on 27, it just looks high. Did I miss a part of it? $1,978 for lodging. Is that like a big group?
There was the water and wastewater held their conference up there, and I think there was 4 from one department and 3 from another one went up there for training. I think 2 of the members are on the board, so they were there a day early for planning, and I think the rest of them were there 3 days.
So it was it was a group. Thank you.
It was a big group having a party.
Other questions or comments on? Motion and a second to pay our bills. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Turn to consensus agenda. We have one item. Set a public hearing date of February 18th, 2020 for a special daily malt beverage and wine license for the Vermillion Area Chamber of Commerce and Development Company on or about April 2, 2020 at the Sanford Coyote Sports Center main competition court and concourse at 1101 North Dakota Street for the annual banquet. Motion is second to approve the consensus agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries, Steve. Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We are adjourned.